Good morning, everyone. I think let's just give one more minute for everybody to sign on. A lot of admissions are being done at the moment. We'll start in a minute. I've started the recording so long. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the online JDE Edwards Forum. Thank you for making the time available today to attend. We are very, very grateful for your support. The JDE Forum took initiative in 2017 when, together with our clients, we recognized the need for JDE customers and users to meet, share, and learn from each other, as well as a platform where new and innovative topics are presented, shared, and discussed. Today is our 11th forum, and it's the 5th online event. Lizzie, will you just mute everybody, please? Thanks. I've recorded the session, and I just want to check if there are any objections to us recording the session. We will make available the presentations and recording.
Deirdre, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll mute everybody. Okay, let's mute everybody. Okay, thank you. We'll start again. Our topics and speakers today are Warren Solomon from Resolve Red. Warren will position the JDE Edwards Workflow feature and demonstrate the creation of a workflow. Mandy Wiggins from Resolve Red will unpack logic extensions that was made available in release 22 and that was further enhanced in release 23. Mandy has prepared a few practical scenarios where logical extensions can be used. Mahen Govender from Idwala Industrial Holdings will showcase the accounts payable solution reconciliation solution and the benefits thereof in the environment. Thank you to all our speakers for your contribution to today's forum. Before I hand over to our speakers, just a few words on what has recently been announced by Oracle and a review of some of the JDE activities over the last year. On 23rd of March 2023, Oracle announced that the JDE Edwards 9.2 Premier support is extended through at least 2034, thus providing JDE 9.2 customers with more than a decade of ongoing product development, new features and innovations on the continuous innovation releases, together with the continued Oracle Premier support. To illustrate Oracle's commitment to the JDE Edwards product, here with a few facts on the various JDE Edwards activities in the last year. There were 4 updates for release 23. The first update was in October 2022, with 3 updates in 2023 in January, April, and June respectively. These updates delivered well over 100 new features. The JDE Edwards Resource Library, or Learn JDE, was updated with more than 50 new content artifacts, including quick tours and videos, outcome-based education lessons and tutorials. Oracle was active on the JDE Edwards social media platforms, and in particular on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter with daily social posts. Oracle reported over 200,000 views per month on LinkedIn. There were over 120 product sessions at the various events, and many client meetings were held. Oracle also invested in the partner community with a technical and application task force and partner town hall sessions. Based on customer success stories, new use cases were added to the Learn JDE website. The Learn JDE site is well worth visiting for information, content, and training. During the partner hall session held in October, Oracle announced that release 24 will be made available before the end of December 2023, and customers can expect a number of new features and functionalities as illustrated on the slide. I have included a short video on release 24.
Technology and innovation are transforming industries. JDE Edwards Release 24 driven by customer requests, is built for your enterprise's future and success. The advanced pricing system for procurement will allow you to optimize discounts and increase efficiencies in purchasing. Simplified auditing for blend management will help you trace a bottle of wine from the vineyard to the table. With Release 24, you will be able to maintain optimal inventory levels for your enterprise by reducing stockouts and excess inventory. Allowing inventory allocations to be put on hold will make control of inventory movements much more efficient, while also providing you with timely and accurate inventory availability. With Release 24, you can use Enterprise One pages to build process models that enable you to bring enterprise automation to the requisition to receipt and shipment to dispatch processes. Release 24 will allow you to store all configuration settings in a single repository. This will simplify and automate configuration across multiple servers, and when new servers are provisioned. Enterprise One tools and applications patching can soon be completely automated with the JDE Edwards Update Manager. Beginning with Release 24, Enterprise One will have new features to help you track and create customized reminders for time-sensitive tasks. A redesigned workflow monitor will enable you to get positive visual confirmation that workflows are running smoothly and without issues. JDE Edwards Release 24, coming soon.
We look forward to unpacking the new features and functionalities of Release 24. The E1 pages process models for automation in procure to pay and quote to cash in particular looks quite exciting. I hope you enjoy the session and please feel free to ask questions. As said earlier, we will make available the recording and presentations of today's session. If you are interested or want to know more about any of the solutions discussed today, please feel free to contact me directly after today's session. I'm now going to hand over to Warren for the workflow presentation. Warren?
Good morning, all. What is extensibility? Extensibility is the process of extending the capabilities of your host system by adding new features. The resources help you and your business partners create new functionality within existing JDE Edwards One applications. By using the no-code, low-code tools to meet your daily tasks, or for simple augmentation requirements, JDE Edwards customers can adopt the code current approach without creating barriers for upgrades with heavy customizations. Traditionally, to extend your JDE Edwards Enterprise One, businesses had to engage on a time-consuming development lifecycle with high upgrade costs and constraints on resource availability. This approach, of course, is still available in JDE Edwards. But with the Oracle announcement of 9.2 as the forever release, and the drive for JDE Edwards clients to adopt a code current strategy, the focus for Enterprise One has been around digital technologies and tools for what we now know as the citizen developer. The JDE Edwards extensibility framework tools on the web provide the citizen developer the agile, reduced customizations, and ability to extend your enterprise host systems. So who are the citizen developers? As JDE Edwards General Manager Lyle Ekdahl put it, citizen developers are the business analysts and other non-developers who leverage JDE Edwards configuration, extensibility, and personalization platforms to configure solutions that enable their business processes and the end users who personalize it to meet their individual needs. How can the citizen developer reduce the total cost of ownership for your JDE Edwards Enterprise One? By one, using configuration, extensibility, and the personalization to reduce the need of customizations. Second, by putting the power to configure Enterprise One in the hands of those who best know what solutions are needed. Thirdly, to reduce dependencies on your more limited programmer resources. How can the citizen developer increase employee satisfaction? By one, empowering employees to make choices about how they complete their tasks. Two, enabling end users to personalize the interface with watch lists, saved queries, grid formats, and many more. Thirdly, enabling end users and business partners to create new functionality within existing JDE Edwards Enterprise One applications. Over the last couple of years, JDE Edwards has been delivering several Enterprise One platforms to help you configure, personalize, and extend your environments. Herewith are just a few of these platforms and frameworks that are available for you to extend your JDE Edwards solution. For instance, orchestrations, notifications, Cafe One pages, form and logic extensions, just to name a few, as well as the one we will focus on today, which is workflows. So spread the word. Make sure your employees and co-workers know that they can personalize and extend many aspects of their JDE Edwards Enterprise One interface. Make sure your business analysts are tuned in and are aware of all the platforms that enable them to create business solutions they need without depending on your IT departments. Contact Resolve Red for any training requirements or any information regarding the extensibility frameworks. Digital transformation promises efficiency, accuracy, timeliness, and low cost. And process automation is one of the primary ways that these promises are fulfilled. Process automation is most effective when user tasks are eliminated by predetermined system actions. The JDE Edwards Enterprise One digital platform, which includes the orchestrator, notifications, scheduler, and extensibility frameworks, enable a high level of process automation, thus allowing human users, devices, and the Enterprise One system to cooperate in digitally transformed operations. Process automation is the hallmark of intelligent ERP systems. And when human users are interacting with devices and enterprise systems, it is called workflows. Oracle JDE Edwards has embarked on a journey with a new generation workflow tools, beginning with Workflow Studio. The Workflow Studio provides a built-in workflow engine with tools to create, manage, and monitor workflow processes using the latest technologies and design platforms. With this next generation Workflow Studio, you can now easily manage your workflows. The modern user interface helps you to streamline and automate complex business processes. The intuitive drag and drop interface enables even those without programming and development skills to easily create workflows. The Workflow Studio makes it easy for you to access your workflows and add and configure tasks. It is backward compatible. It enables you to read and modify your existing workflows. These enhancements empower a wider range of users to design workflows easily, regardless of their technical skills. Moreover, you can easily validate, activate, and deactivate your workflows directly from the Workflow Studio. This capability enhances the workflow development process and ultimately makes your business processes more efficient. Today, we'll look at a use case scenario to illustrate the functions and that's available within the workflow. So we have a use case scenario, all supplier invoices, that voucher matching for a projects company, company 15, are created with a pay status of H. And for each job site depicted as a business unit, we will assign a responsible approver whom will approve and reject all invoices, supplier invoices, before automatic payment execution. The extensibility components that we will be using in this scenario will be logic extensions, workflow, and orchestration. In the interest of time, we will showcase the processes with screenshots to show how the Workflow Studio and associated components work. So in our use case scenario, we create firstly a logic extension. The logic extension will then call ultimately the workflow, which is depicted in this area over here. So the first step in the logic extension is to use an assignment function. So there's all your functions on the left-hand side within your logic extension. So the first step in the logic extension is to use the assignment function to assign the default search criteria. In our instance, we're going to use the pay status as H, the document type as PV, the company as company 50, and just all our pay items as 001. Step 2 in the logic extension is to assign a table IO function to select the accounts payable F0411 based on company key and document type. Document type PV has been assigned and company 50. So that's the select status. Step 3 is to assign a table IO function to fetch next on the accounts payable ledger table and moving the document number and pay status into the variables. Step 4 is to assign a while function to loop on the accounts payable ledger table based on the successful fetch next and where the company and document type is equal to the assigned variables. Step 5 now goes into the while loop, and with another fetch next table IO function, fetches the information required for processing later. The information that we will require is company, document type, document number, gross amount, business unit, supplier number, and pay status. Step 6 is created with a if-else function, which checks if the prior record pay status and document type is the same as the current record. If it meets the criteria, it will continue with step 7, else it will branch off into the while loop. Step 7 is an assignment function which adds a counter for the number of transactions to be processed. Step 8 is a table IO function for a fetch single, where the responsible person to approve the voucher is fetched from the business unit master, F006. This is mapped to the address number 1 in the business unit master. As you can see, the business unit master revision screen over here, business unit 5252, has been assigned address number 1 as 6001 as Alan Hobson. So this is the person responsible for that business unit or that job site or step 9 is the last step in the logic extension and we'll call the workflow. Note that for any workflow, you must pass 2 required data structures. A key data structure as well as an additional data structure. For the workflow, a simple process is required as most of the work is being done by the logic extension. The workflow has 2 components. It has the action message as well as an orchestrator. So the action message is linked to an address book record mapped to the responsible address number in the business unit master. We have linked the message to the work center as a 03 electronic workbench. As our release 23 demo environment is not yet set up to interface with our emails, should you have that in your environment, it will automatically then note that it will attach a custom workflow message, which we've created as LM5599, as well as it will embed the JDE Edwards, standard JDE Edwards approval application will be embedded with a message, and you can see it over here, P98806. The next step in the approval workflow, in my workflow, is calling the orchestration. This orchestration was created using the process recorder, where we used a standard JDE application to change the status or the pay status to approved. Here you can see the orchestrator component for the workflow. As I said, we have a simple orchestrator using the recorder form request. In this view of the form request as generated by the process recorder, in step 1 of the form request, note that the data structure is aligned to our original input assignments and step 1 of our logic extensions. Document type PV, company 50, and pay item 001. Step 2 in our form request is where we update the pay status to an A as approved. So the data used in this use case is as follows. The supplier invoice was created as hold before. When we executed the logic extension, which included the workflow execution as well as the orchestrator, Alan Hobson, 6001, the responsible person to approve this, approved it, and after the record has been approved. Note the business unit for this specific record is 5252, which is linked to what we've seen earlier on the business unit mapping of the address number 1. So the data used here, as you can see, to find the document in the QBE is document type PV with pay status of H and pay item 001 and company 50 will be in. This is a custom message that was generated in the work center for the job site or responsible person, as you can see, Alan Hobson, 6001, into the electronic workbench as we specified within our message, action message. We've used the embedded application, approval application to approve the request. And this was the message, the action message that we've actually created as our custom message. So voucher, and this is a variable 3284, which is our PV number for that supplier, Rocky Mountain survey equipment in the amount of $210 has been approved, or requires approval, sorry, and then you will obviously action with the embedded approval application. Great, that concludes our use case. Workflow monitoring is a new tool available from release 24, which is scheduled to be released towards the end of November, in the next couple of weeks or beginning of December. This tool will enable you to easily review your workflows with built-in dashboards and drill-down capabilities to, for example, verify that all workflows are running smoothly, review the unexpected issues, see if all participants are completing their tasks on time, and view if there are any workflows that are stuck. Some of the visualizations on the workflow monitor will be a summary of the health of your workflow, how many workflows are at each status, example, which workflows are active, which workflows are completed, which workflows are waiting for actions, and you will be able to drill down and see how long each step takes to complete, etc., and many, many more metrics that will be available in the dashboard. The orchestrator is a key component of the JDE Edwards digital platform. It enables the Enterprise One system to perform tasks and transactions in a completely automated way without human intervention. That is a powerful capability and an effective way for many automation scenarios. Complementing Orchestrator, Enterprise Workflow Studio provides a framework for tasks to be performed from one performer to another, usually humans, possibly with gaps or conditional transactions between the tasks, such as approvals or delegations. Workflow Monitor collects important metrics that gives you visualization over your workflows and reveal the health of your operations. The ultimate goal is process automation, in which machines and humans cooperate seamlessly to react to changing conditions and accomplish work at the tempo of the digital economy. The Enterprise One digital platform allows orchestrations, logic extension, and workflow processes to call each other. In this way, we can invite human intelligence into automated processes. When humans and machines are cooperative in a seamless manner, it is when we realize true intelligent automation. So in conclusion, intelligent people supported by intelligent systems equals an intelligent enterprise. For more information on the Enterprise One Workflow Studio, or any of what we've seen today, you can contact me on my cell or on my email address or at info@resolvered.com. Thank you. Deirdre, over to you.
Thank you very much, Warren. I'm just checking, are there any questions for Warren? Cool, then they're gonna move on. Our next topic is logic extension, so I'm gonna hand over to Mandy. Mandy?
Hi, Mandy Wiggins. I'm a distribution consultant at ResolveRed. I would like to talk to you about logic extensions. This is such an exciting time to be part of the JDE world, as they are constantly making available more features, with even more to come in release 24. One of the most powerful features that has been made available is the logic extension, as it has many possibilities. The Orchestrated Studio provides a web-based user interface to create logic extensions. Using logic extensions, you can create business logic to perform operations such as string manipulation, mathematical calculations, conditions, loops, and even table input and output. Imagine the possibilities this can do for you. Logic extension was introduced in release 22. At that time, you could manipulate numeric strings and dates, as well as reading and writing into tables. Then, business functions and reports interconnects were added. Another update added the ability to kick off a workflow process from logic extension. In release 23, dataset processing and aggregations were added. Logic extensions continue to receive enhancements, making it a powerful tool for now and the future. The feature has been steadily enhanced with additional capabilities. It can be used for automating and replacing customizations, thereby optimizing JDE Edwards. Automation example would be where the user do the same action over and over. And with an orchestration or logic extension, this can be automated. If rules and logic can be applied, it can be automated. Many of you have already seen the automation that orchestrations can bring to you. Now we can add logic extensions into our orchestrations, making them more powerful and at the same time simpler. Imagine an orchestration linked to a button on a sales order screen that you can click and cancel a line. In the orchestration, we can validate the status and how the line can be cancelled depending on the status. If the line is at ship confirm and you have a business rule that says your reversal must be done with a selling price of 0 and a cost price that is equal to the original cost, we can use the logic extension to control this. The user clicks one button to cancel the line, but multiple actions are performed. We can even include the return of the goods to stock. Think of how many customizations have been done in the past to achieve this. Logic extensions does not have to be part of an orchestration. It can be used on its own. The conditions in logic extensions are much more powerful than the rules and iteration you can perform in orchestrations. This is another way logic extensions can help to improve your business efficiency. Logic extensions is a UDO. It can be used on its own, or it can be used in conjunction with an orchestration. Seeing that logic extensions is a UDO, it will follow the development and promotional path like any other UDO. Logic extensions could be used to replace SQL statements. The advantage of using a logic extension is that it will validate the data in the input field. Benefit. There are so many benefits for using logic extensions. Oracle has really come to the party to help us utilize JDE to its fullest potential. Logic extension enables the users to use a familiar syntax of JDE Edwards event rule language to create custom logic. Logic extension reduces the dependency on development client, so less servers, less space on the servers. There is also no need for additional programs to be installed like programming software, as you use the Orchestrator Studio to do your development on the web. Logic extensions eliminates the need to build and deploy the packages, as the user can promote their own projects on the web. Allow users to create business logic to perform operations such as string manipulation, mathematical calculations, and even table input and output, without the need for a developer, using the drag and drop concept. Logic extension also provides a better user experience. If you want to add statements into your logic, you can either drag and drop or click the plus icon to point and click. You get a comprehensive view of the logic in the designer itself. If you are unsure which data item to use ahead of time, not a problem. Working with an E1 structure, you can add alias to your logic extension defined on the fly. Lastly, you can test, run, and troubleshoot your logic extension on the glass. This allows us to reduce customizations and the time spent developing of the solution. Logic extensions were created for the developer, business analyst, and database administrators. Each one will benefit from using the logic extensions as they are familiar with the JDE syntax. Features. Starting a workflow from a logic extension before you needed a developer to use a workflow within a program, but now you can just add the workflow to your solution and leverage of the code that is already developed and reuse any workflow in JDE. Workflow Studio streamlines the process of refining and managing a workflow. However, starting a workflow was difficult. With logic extensions creating the option to start a workflow, you can call notifications or orchestrations from workflow if you combine them together. This makes more effective, efficient, and potentially comprehensive business processes. Dataset processing has been made easier with the ability to accept arrays as input and return arrays as output for efficient iteration processing of multiple rows of data within the logic extension. Think of when you export an Excel sheet from JDE and work through the sheet line by line and correcting and manipulating the data. Aggregation leverages the built-in data analytics capability within JDE. This simplifies cases in which data needs to be summed, averaged, or otherwise aggregated. You can accomplish a level of data analysis and manipulate without programming skills. Once again, imagine exporting an Excel from JDE and doing a sum or average calculation on the sheet. But now you can do it inside JDE and use the data that was calculated. For example, you could calculate the total of an order and use that to run a promotion. Logic extensions can be called directly from the form extension now, making it use of logic extensions interactive and not dependent on an orchestration being run. We have included this in one of our scenarios. Using nested logic extensions for reusable and recursive logic. The nested logic extension features enables you to create logic extensions that call other logic extensions, thus enabling a common pattern in programming in which code snippets are designed and reusable objects. The benefits including building a library of reusable logic extensions and iterating recursively within the logic extension. In orchestrations, you could only go 2 levels deep, but with logic extensions, you can have nested logic extensions. Text, numeric, and date manipulation. This feature was in the first release of the logic extensions. If you wanted to add 5 days to a promised delivery date, this was the function to use. Table input and output to retrieve, update, and add and delete records. Example of this would be to update a field based on a condition, like updating the zone in a shipment based on the information that is in the sales order. We can use this to do mass updates of data or replace SQL statements. Form control functions allows you to control the display of form. This is a brand new feature that is available in release 23. This will be explained in more detail in our scenarios. There are only some of the features of logic extensions, and you can expect more. The easiest way to show you how logic extensions can be used will be by showing you scenarios. This is what we thought of, but there are many possibilities, not limited to just these scenarios. We have identified 5 possible scenarios to get your imagination working. The scenarios are reprice sales order, primary location, purchase order total, related order number, and form control. So let's get started. Here we have a sales order originating from either a quote or a blanket order. Oracle prevents repricing on sales order that originate from either a blanket or a quote order, as it is considered a firm negotiated agreement for the customer to buy a specific quantity of the item for the quote or blanket price. Several clients have requested this functionality to be changed because they desire more flexibility during their sales process. In theory, Oracle makes sense, But in the real world, some of our clients want to reprice all open sales orders with the new price as the product is repriced frequently. Oracle prevents the blanket or quote orders to be repriced by flagging the price override flag field. Yes, Oracle did put a processing option in place on the sales order program, allowing the price to be overwritten. However, this enhancement does not extend to the sales price cost update program. If the price override flag is flagged on the sales order record, the price on the line will not be updated during update. Oracle is in the process of enhancing the pricing in JDE, as we have seen lots of enhancements in advanced pricing space. For now, this is what you can do. In order not to do a customization, you will add a logic extension on the OK button of the sales order release screen. Once the order has been released, the logic extension will be called to update the field to prevent the sales order from being repriced in future. The reason why a logic extension is needed and not an orchestration is that the field that you need to update is not available for the user to update in the front screen. In this logic extension, you will use table input and output, conditional processing and looping, data processing, form extensions, primary location. The scenario is that the item and the branch record does not have a primary location. I have seen this scenario a few times in my career, that the primary location has been deleted. The result of this is when you receipt the item. The receipt transaction will write to the Cardex and the general ledger, but will not write to the receipt file. When accounts payable tries to match the voucher, there is no record to match. If you have ever been in a situation where there is no primary location, you will know that JDE does not allow you to add a primary location if a secondary location already exists. To prevent this issue, you have a few options. You can add a button to the screen, Work with Item Location. This button will add the primary location via logic extension by using a form extension. This is a reactory measure and does not solve all issues. This can only be done with a logic extension, as the logic extension will validate that no primary location exists and add the primary location according to rules. The other option you have is to put the logic extension in an orchestration and attach a scheduler to the orchestration. This becomes a preventative measure, ensuring that the situation does not arise. Orchestrations will run over all data in the database and catch the records that does not have primary location and fix them accordingly. So what was used is form extensions, table input and output, conditional processing and looping, and data set processing. In this scenario is related to the purchase order total, OT. An order has been partially receipted. The user goes back into the order and makes changes to the value. The order total, OT, does not always update correctly. If you have approvals on this purchase order, the order will not go for approvals, as the approval is based on the incorrect order total. We have seen that sometimes the order total goes into negative, then it will not go for approval either. To achieve the solution for this issue, you would add a logic extension to the OK button of the form that makes the changes to the purchase order. The logic extension will then calculate the purchase order total, excluding the cancelled lines, and compare the order total is the same as the calculated total. If it is not the same, then only the logic extension will update the order total. What this will then do is that JDE can follow the normal path of events to send the order through the approval process. Why logic extension and not orchestration? And orchestration cannot correct the order total, as the field is not available for the user to change. So what was used was table input and output, conditional processing and looping, dataset processing, aggregation, and form extensions. In this scenario is related to both sales and purchase order, as it has to do with the related or original order number that gets populated by JDE. For this scenario, we added a line to the direct ship sales order, but wanted to update the existing purchase order. In vanilla JDE, if you add a line to an existing direct sales order, a new purchase order gets created. The client wanted the original purchase order to be updated with the new line and to prevent JDE from creating a new purchase order. The client also wanted a cleaner view of the relationship between the sales order and the purchase order. To achieve this, a series of orchestrations and logic extensions was used to create a new line in the original purchase order and to update all the related order number fields with a logic extension. If you are using STOT orders or direct ship orders, you will know that the related order number field is very important to not lose track of your orders. Why this can only be done with a logic extension is, again, the user cannot complete the related order numbers fields from the front screen. The only thing in the logic extension that was used here is table input and output. Form control. Form control extensions are a low-code and no-code way to dynamically change JDE application forms. Forms are the fundamental component of E1 interaction applications, and those forms are made up of various form controls, such as input fields, buttons, grids. Traditionally, customers have customized forms to simplify and optimize the user experience, but customizations can be difficult and costly. Oracle's solution is form control extensions. Now, with logic extensions, you can enhance a form control extension. Logic extensions gives us the ability to act on the properties of the controls on the form. Form control extension allows us to show, hide, enable, disable, and change the color of the fields. With logic extension, we can make these changes based on the value the user has entered in a field. This allows us to change the form based on the information that has been entered in a field on a form. I must warn you, this feature is only available in Release 23. Have you ever wanted to add fields or remove fields based on a value in another field? On this simple example, if the supplier is Mandy, then I want the carrier field to be hidden. To achieve this, a logic extension was added to the form extension using... Sorry, it's not showing. There we go. Thank you. Okay, let's try again. On this simple example, if the supplier is Mandy, then I want the carrier field to be hidden. To achieve this, a logic extension was added to the form extension using form controls. Customers have repeatedly asked for form extensions to be supported at a version level. Unfortunately, that's against the E1 architecture, so it cannot be promised. However, The product has been enhanced so that you can work with versions using form extension. This means that you can pass the version to the logic extension and make fields enabled and disabled based on a version. In summary, logic extensions gives you control over your JDE user interface. It doesn't require traditional development tools, deployment tools, or developer skills. You can reduce the number of UDOs in orchestrations and customize the ability to move beyond traditional customizations. With logic extensions, you can do so much more and a lot easier. How would you use this in your environment? I'm opening the floor for any questions. Just see, is there anything in the chat? Except the presentation that disappeared.
There's nothing in chat. Nobody's raised hands.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hang on. Reconcile.
Yes, Pia.
Sorry, Mandy, I just wanted to praise you a bit there with hand clap and accidentally raised my hand.
No problem, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mandy. I think logic extensions, no more SQL updates, and we can now use hard to reach fields like related orders and original order numbers. Our next topic is our AP supplier reconciliation, and I'm asked Liz Fahrenheim just to introduce Edwarla and then a few words on how the solution came about.
Good morning, everybody. Liz Fahrenheim here. I'd just like to welcome everybody here and give a very big thank you to Maheen Governor, who is now going to present the Edwarla supplier reconciliation process. So a need was identified to provide the ability to upload a current supplier statement and provide a reconciliation and a view to provide an accurate reflection of the current liability to that supplier and a reflection of the status of the data in JDE, what transactions have been processed to what point, from purchase order to payment, and to provide it all in one view for ease of control and use, and to introduce an approval process. However, I'm not going to go into any more detail, but I'd like to thank both Maheen and Sally Reddy from Edwarla Industrial Holdings for their time putting this all together, and to present their solution, which I think is really stunning, and I'm sure will attract a lot of interest from the financial viewers here.
Thank you, Liz. I think you've been very generous. Good morning, everybody. Maheen Govender from Edwarla. Just gonna put my presentation up. There you go. Okay. All right, so thank you for the introduction. As Liz mentioned, we would like to take you through a little solution that was built together with Edwarla and Resolve, which relates to our accounts payable supplier reconciliations. This has been a little bit of a difficult one with Edwarla, and our reconciliations historically have been built on Excel, with the users moving between the supplier statement, which is in PDF, their reconciliation, which is in Excel, and JDE Edwards, which houses all the open invoices and payments, etc. So just a little overview on the process. We built a supplier reconciliation application that would encompass the capture process, allow the users to amend and update their recons. We included workflow and approvals, and overall tying this up with reporting, which allows us to trend and to work out our cash flows, etc., based on our critical, non-critical, and contractors that are in the system. These are underpinned by Power Forms and BI Publisher. which allows us to have multiple forms in the system and to drive the outputs and the workflows and the email notifications, etc. Okay. So the purpose for us was to create a JDE workspace that would mimic the manual supplier reconciliation process, which was performed in Excel. And to basically, and I'll go back to the word workspace all the time, to allow the users to find their unallocated payments and amend their invoices accordingly to create their reconciliation. The users have access to the payment screens and the speed status from the reconciliation app. We do automatic calculations using the subsystem data and the user input. We have validations in our screens to do the recon balances, which then drive the user approvals. Once again, going back to the workflow using the BI publisher with multiple approvers in the system. It provides a nice overview of the supplier payment requirements and cash flow for the month. And we use media object functionality so that the users could attach the supplier statements to the records. So next we move on to our enter review screen, which is fairly simple. And on our screen, we have the ability to view our recons by status using these radio buttons. And we have the workflow capability, which is our send for approval, approve, reject, which we'll get to a little later as well. So going back to the key concept here being the workspace. This is an overview of our supplier reconciliation entries form. On the left, we have the Idwala company, so whichever company we're working with in JDE, together with the vendor number, statement numbers, contact person, etc. So contact person, contact number, email being retrieved from the who's who of the vendor. In the middle, we have our reconciliation information together with the currency code being currency aware, together with the payment terms of the supplier and who's going to approve the reconciliations. And on the right, we have all the totals, beginning with the balances, unallocated payments, outstanding invoices, and our total payments, which we'll get into in more detail. Our ledger balance due, which is based on FO411, together with what's on hold, what's approved, and whether it falls within the payment date, and not due, everything that's on hold and outside of the payment date, and just a total ledger balance. We then incorporated unallocated payments. So we had a link to work with payments in the screen, which allows the users to go and find their unallocated payments and the speed status. So with this in mind, with this being the start of the payment process, we wanted to create, as I said, the workspace so that the users could prepare their payments and prepare their invoices and have everything in line before they move to the next steps. We then use Power Forms that allowed us to allocate or select unallocated payments. So these are payments in JDE, not on the supplier statement, and a manual input on the right for outstanding invoices. So these would be anything that's on the statement, not in JDE. So when we go to retrieve unallocated payments, we automatically pass the payment, the payee number, and we go back from a payment date of 90 days. The thought process of that being 3 months worth of payments. We automatically retrieve that, which allows the user can then do a multi-select on the screen and retrieve all the payments that do not reflect on the statement. The user does have the option to change that date should the payment fall outside of that scope. When the user selects these payments, it's automatically returned to the reconciliation screen and added to the unallocated payments total automatically. This can be manipulated, deleted if it was selected incorrectly. And as I said, we can do a multi-select on this as well. Next, the second part of the form being outstanding invoices, which is a user input form. Users are able to capture the invoices that are not yet due or outstanding with reason codes that will allow us to trend why we are not paying these invoices. We'll get into the reporting a bit later and how those reason codes allow us to actually trend what's going on. So now that we've got our statement balance, our unallocated payments, and our outstanding invoices, the system then says, okay, I'll take my statement balance, less unallocated payments, less outstanding invoices, which says I'm going to pay 2395, etc., less what's due on my ledger, and my recon balance check is an easy way for the users to check Does this balance? Is there any outstanding amount? No, it's perfect. Now I'm done. The user can then click Save and Close, which takes them back to their main screen. And now that they have a clean recon balance, they can send for approval. So in the send for approval, we have a check on that recon balance. If it's not zero, it will not go through and notify the user. Okay, so now that the user clicks on the send for approval, it'll start the workflow process. The approver receives an email saying that recon number 104, $4 lime, needs to be reviewed. It also has a PDF output, which was built using PI Publisher, which is an overview of the reconciliation itself, encompassing all totals that we just discussed. The approver then logs in. They can select the attached statement to view the actual supplier statement to make sure that it's in line with what's been captured. And they have an opportunity to then either say, please revise. Should they click on the revise button, they have an option to put in a comment, and it'll go back to the user who prepared the recon. And if they click approve, it'll move on to the next step. So something, if we look back to Warren's presentation earlier today, this can be enhanced using the logic extensions, the workflows, and the orchestrations moving forward, and if you are on release 22 or higher. So once the user clicks approve, the person who captured the recon will get another notification saying your recon has been approved. And you can see we've also used watermarks to say whether it's draft or whether it's final approved, and can be saved for auditing purposes later on. Okay, trying to locate my mouse. So if we go to our payment pack, if we want to call it that, this is now the start of our payment. So our recon payment amount then leads us to our cash requirements. Because we've already prepared with the speed status and prepared all our invoices that are due based on the payment date, we can then create the cash requirements, the payment group, and send our payment file to the bank, knowing that whatever amount is on the recon has been approved, flows through to the process. So we create a payment pack, and this is stored for auditing purposes as well. All of the amounts. So if we're paying 1,000 Rand, if we had 1,000 Rand on our recon, we've got 1,000 Rand on our cash requirements, etc., all the way through to the payment file. Next, we move on to reporting. So one of the key reporting requirements that we had when doing this project was to try and understand what happens with our critical suppliers, and then obviously the non-critical and contractors, etc. And how do we base our cash flow? Now, this is a very manual process at the moment. Our users run our open GRVs, they run their AP aging, they then take that information, they put it into an Excel document, they then manually add their reconciliation totals, and they distribute this to the GMs of the various different business units, and it's very time consuming. Now that we have the reconciliations in JDE, we have flagged our suppliers to say whether they're critical or non-critical. We run this report and it'll tell us, is there a recon in the current month, yes or no? If there's no recon, it'll list, is there an open GRV total? Is there an open creditors total? You can ignore the totals on there. I've anonymized the data. So if you see repetition, it's just because I've provided fictitious information for now. But yes, it'll tell you, do you have a recon, yes or no? So you can see supplier J is critical. There's no recon for the month, which means A, have I received the statement? Or B, if I've received the statement, why have I not captured it? So it provides visibility. So ideally, you'd want all your critical suppliers to have a recon in the current month. Once the recons are captured, we then provide the information based on that recon, which gives you the payment date and the payment amount, which is perfect for cash flow projection, because then you can see exactly what you need to pay and when you need to pay it. We then created what we call a recon summary. So this is basically based off the header file. This allows us to run an extract of all the recons that are in the system with all information that's available to us. This can be run by company, by supplier, or by user. So I know internally how we would use this is we would say, if there's a problem with a supplier that is constantly short paid, we can run it for that supplier to have a look at how many times we paid them short, because it'll tell us what was the statement amount versus what was our payment amount. And we can then trend that. We also have internal KPIs for users, for our AP clerks, to say that they need to capture X amount of recons per month. So we can run the report per user to make sure that these things are being done. And the detailed report, this now talks back to the reason codes that we used when capturing our recons for outstanding invoices. So what we did is we used a dual description UDC, and we said we can then capture a reason code which is relevant to the user, as we see reason description 1. We're not paying the invoice because the PO is not receipted, or we're not paying the invoice because there's a price variance between the purchase order and the invoice. And it allows us to also then link that to whether it's a user issue, whether it's a supplier issue, or whether it's just a system problem, etc., etc. Now, these trends are going to be quite important. As we said, if we go back to problematic suppliers or problematic users who don't receive their orders on time, it allows AP to then tell them that this is why we are constantly paying supplier A short, because the POs are not received on time, or we have a problem with the supplier, maybe we should sit down and talk to them to make sure that they invoice us correctly. So in a nutshell, that is how our supplier recons look and what it's being used for. Don't take my word for it. Let's see what the users have to say about it. We did not pay this user to give us the feedback. It was done on our own. So hopefully you can hear the audio.
We implemented this menu, the JDE Supplier Recon. So we're now doing our recons on JDE, not on Excel anymore. And it's really helping us because we can upload our statement here. We can really submit and authorize all the team's recons in on JDE, and it's like minimize a lot of our time. So really, really, really happy. Thank you so much, IT.
Okay, so before we move on to question and answers, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to Resolve and the development team with the work that was done on this project. I mean, if you look at the time and the quality of the product that was produced, it was just a great working experience. And I think what's important to note is that any IT system is dependent on some key concepts of usability. And I feel like we really captured the requirements and translated it into a way where we not only met usability goals, but we also provided a good user experience. The feedback, we spoke to the users yesterday, and the feedback is just amazing. I mean, some of the users are already done with their month-end payments. It's already captured, recon, approved, and ready and waiting for payment. So thank you, guys. And I hope maybe this could benefit somebody in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maheen. I'm just checking. Are there any questions for Mahendra, Sally, or Liz? Excellent. Thank you very much. I think that was well presented, and I think a good solution. Definitely a gap in the JDE Edwards software. Again, if there are any interest in a solution like this, we as Resolve Red are happy to facilitate kind of a SIG where we can unpack and further discuss this to make sure that we build a solution for all customers in South Africa. There's a question on the chat. Thank you very much. Thank you for the very well presented. So that concludes our session for today. Thank you all for attending, and thank you very much to all our speakers. As I said earlier, I'll send out the link to the presentations and the recording. Sorry, a question from Etienne. Yeah, Etienne, please proceed.
Morning. No, I pressed the wrong button. Sorry.
Right, so everybody, thank you very much. We'll send out the recording shortly. And as we're at the end of the year, we wish you a very festive holiday season in December. And we hope to see you all in the forum in May 2024. Thank you.